time. So first off, thank you and welcome to my first ever Kadima webinar on LinkedIn. So things will probably get messed up here. I apologize in advance. We've tried to work through them in practice sessions, but I'm sure things will not be perfect, but that's okay. First up, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for joining this session. You could be doing a lot of things on your day after Halloween, digesting your candy, dealing with a sugar rush, getting back to work, doing whatever you do. But thank you very much for dedicating an hour of your time to learn a little bit more about Kadima and how we can help you accelerate your career. And when I say we, it's I. Right now, it's just me. I do have a couple of interns and an admin on my team, and they are attending here. And I'm super happy to have Fadoma and Alyssa and others on the call. But thank you very much for making time in your day to be here with me. Next up, this will not be perfect. To quote Winston Churchill, perfection is the enemy of progress. I would rather get this information out here in an imperfect way than wait to get it all perfect. So this is basically just an excuse for why things screw up later on in the program. So it will not be perfect, but hopefully it'll be pretty darn good. So first question you may want to ask, are you in the right place? So if you're already in tech, but not growing your career as you expect, you're in the right place. If you've wanted to pivot into tech, but don't know how to make the switch, this is a great place for you to learn some new information. If you want to get paid what you deserve, we will talk to you about how to get paid what you deserve to make. If you want to be excited to work at the company that you work for, we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how to get to a company that truly excites you. And then if you're looking to dramatically improve your network, this is a great way. At the very least, you've met a lot more people in this event, and I encourage you to connect with them. But also as part of the Kadima program, you will drastically grow and improve your network. Let's see, next up. Oh, also for everybody, if you guys have questions as I'm going through this, please do put it in the Q&A. I think we do allow some upvoting on there if I figure this out properly, but at the very least, you can always ping Alyssa on the chat and she can make sure that we capture all those questions. So if you have questions, please feel free to add those. So enough about you guys, why you're here. I'm going to share a little bit of information about me. And this is informative because there's lots of career accelerators out there. I've learned a lot from them. I've seen a lot of the competition. This is what makes mine a little bit unique. So a little bit about my upbringing. First off, I come from a family of blue collar workers. That change maker right there is from my grandpa Stanley, who died when I was in first grade. He was a New York City cab driver. He busted his ass. He helped to help support his family so that his future generations can be a little bit more privileged than he was. Next up. This is a Mike Schmidt rookie card that I bought when I was 14 years old. I spent $1,200 for that card and a whole bunch of baseball cards on the condition that I worked and paid off that $1,200 debt to my parents. So my parents footed me that bill. I started working when I was 14. And since that time, I've worked for 21 different companies since working at Walbaum's in Long Island. But that has informed a lot of my perspective and insights over my career. My education. So I am a first generation college student. I actually graduated the same time that my mom did. She graduated from Queens College. I graduated from Binghamton University in 1995. We're both first generation college students at the same time. Then I was also fortunate to be privileged to go to Columbia Business School. That's my bobblehead that my sister, who's on the call here, got me. It's a little bit faded, has a little bit more hair than I do now, but that kind of looked like me back in 2005. But a lot what I learned at Columbia Business School has helped to inform where I've gotten here, has helped inform Kadima, how people can get great jobs. And while I spent $138,000 for that education back in 2005, it continues to pay dividends. And I'm looking to give some of that insight and information back to people now. So my growth and development. So I started off being a shitty dad. Now I am the world's greatest dad. That is proof from my kids. I have it here. So unless anyone has any proof that can demonstrate otherwise, from all of my knowledge, am the world's greatest dad. This other award here is, so when I joined Google back in 2011, I was one of the shittiest managers at Google. I know that because they track that, because they give you measurement on that. I was in the bottom 25 percentile of managers. I took that information to heart. I learned and grew and wound up getting that award and going to Cabo San Lucas with 24 other top managers at Google as I won the Great Manager Award. So that has informed a lot of my growth mindset. So you can be in a shitty situation. I was a shitty manager. I learned, grew, became one of the best managers. And for folks that I'm talking to here about who have had challenges with a job search, may not be in their career where they want to be, all of this stuff is learnable and growable. If you receive the right feedback, you receive the right guidance, you receive the right support. Next up, enlightenment and awareness. So over the last decade or so, there's me with my Tableau Supports Black Lives t-shirt. So it's a great concept in theory. However, I was a little distraught at Tableau, at my time at Google, at my time at Facebook, at companies that talk a big game about diversity and inclusion and don't really walk the walk. So Tableau, I wore that t-shirt. We, during that time, that came out during the George Floyd murder. Tableau talked a lot about diversity. Other companies have as well. Although if you look at the 40 VPs that Tableau had at that time, only one was Black. And everybody knew who that person was because you knew him by name. So companies can say they support it, but unless they actually walk the talk, it's kind of cheap. And that has informed a little bit of my perspective. If you go to, and again, I'm not trash talking any of the companies I was at, because here is, if you type in your web browser now, equality.com, you will come to this really flashy page that Salesforce owns that URL. You'll see this great picture of all the diverse employees there at Salesforce, many of which I've never seen during my time there. But then you will see, if you scroll down on that page on equality.com, you will see the numbers, and the numbers are quite putrid. Global representation of women is 33.6%. US representation of Black individuals is 3.4%. US representation of Latinx is 4.5%. Those numbers compare to 50 or 51% women, 13.4% of the US population is Black, 18.5% is Latinx. So these companies are talking a big game. They're not getting to where they want to on the diversity and inclusion space. Next up, last year during the COVID lockdown, the George Floyd incident was front and center for a lot of us. It was a despicable act, a despicable murder. That was the first time that I heard the term systemic racism. I'm sure that term existed before, but that made it knowledgeable to me. That, and my wife began reading Ibram Kendi's book about how to be an anti-racist to my kids. And a lot of that reading, at least what I took it away as, is no one considers themselves to be a racist. Or I would say, I think the numbers say about 10% of people outwardly consider themselves to be racist. But if you don't take active action to do something about it, it's all bullshit. So Ibram Kendi and his talking was like, how do you take anti-racist actions and behavior to make a difference? And I took that to heart, thinking about what I can do to make a difference. And that was also part of the origin story behind Kadima. So I'll talk a little bit more about how I take these diversity inclusion things very seriously. I hold myself accountable for delivering upon that with Kadima. So we're not just trying to accelerate careers, we're trying to accelerate all careers. So summing it up a little bit about me, there's me, my family, my 3 kids, my 2 dogs. They're awesome. I would have had them in here to show them off because exploiting puppies are always beneficial for webinars, but they are out on a walk. So they're my kids and dogs. And here's a little bit about my professional background. So I've had the privilege of working for 2 of the FAANGs. And for folks that don't know what a FAANG is, it's Facebook. Well, now I guess you got to call it Meta. So now it's called Mang, I guess, not FAANGs. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. I was fortunate enough to work at the first one and the last one there. I've worked at 6 Fortune 500 companies over my tenure, 21 different companies, 29 different roles, 33 years of working, and I've had 35 bosses. Over that time, not only have I learned about the recruiting process, I've also learned that I'm a really shitty employee, and that's why I'm no longer working in the corporate world. So I happen over the time and tenure, I have unique insight into the illogical, inefficient, and unfair hiring processes. So I've reviewed over 10,000 resumes in my career and LinkedIn profiles. I've interviewed over 2,000 people, including 225 people in 2015 at Google. So I am probably in the top 1 percentile in terms of interviewers and being interviewed. So I also have, in addition to this 21 jobs I've been fortunate enough to have, I have probably been extended 50 offers. I've probably interviewed for about 200 companies. In the last 6 months alone, I've interviewed over 100 times for 27 different companies at 35 different jobs. At first, I was doing that because I was thinking about leaving Salesforce, but then I continued doing that because all that information and insight was great information to help my Kadima clients of how to improve their interview process. So I was actually just interviewing for learning and edification rather than actually getting the job by the end. But here are some of the companies that I've interviewed with over the last 6 months. So these are legitimate companies, big companies. Many of these I made to the final round. Some of them I got offers for, but these are the type of companies that I'm able to get into and that I'm going to show you how to empower you to get into these companies as well. So what's the deal with the Kadima thing? I would do my Jerry Seinfeld impression. I don't do a very good one. Big fan of Jerry, went to the same college as him, although he never really talks about that he went to Binghamton, but he did go there. And my cousin is actually married to a Seinfeld himself from the Seinfeld lineage. So why I created Kadima. I don't know if anyone's heard of this term ikigai, but it's this Japanese philosophy or that talks about your reason or purpose of living. And it's when you can combine what you love. And what I love to do is I like to grow and develop careers versus also with what you're good at. So I happen to be a good interviewer. I get invited to interview a lot of people. I also get interviewed a lot. So I am good at that. I've been told that I'm good at that. Friends and family have always reached out to me for advice before I started Kadima. What the world needs. People need jobs. People want more money. So it hits that checkbox also. And then what you can get paid for. Over the last year, I've started to go from like the free advice model to charging people and getting them a big return on their investment. So once you get all that, what I love, what I'm good at, what the world needs, and what I can pay for, that is that sweet spot, that purpose, the reason for being, the raison d'etre. I'm terrible with my French, and I got really bad grades in high school because of that. But it's my ikigai. So this is what really drives me, what I'm good at, and what I'm working on giving back to other people. So a little bit about the Kadima origin story. And I promise you, we're almost done with Kadima. We'll talk more about you shortly, but I think that this gives you a little insight and about some of the unique selling proposition that I have here. This was in July of last year. This is when I began selling my services at Kadima. We had a garage sale with my in-laws. I put signs up there. I got a lot of interest of people that want to work at companies at sales like Salesforce. They want to get into big tech. I saw that there was demand out there. Then I spoke to my buddy David over there, and I talked to him about this company I was starting where I'm looking to accelerate people's career, not just help them get a job, but then once they get that job, to accelerate their compensation going forward as well. And I asked him, what's a good word for acceleration or forward progress? And him being Israeli, came up with the name Kadima, which means forward. So that's how we got the name Kadima. So why does Kadima exist? Kadima is a mission-driven career accelerator that was created to efficiently empower you to land rewarding and high-paying jobs at the world's best tech companies. I've worked with a lot of career coaches in my past. This is a very results-driven program. This is going to get you a great job at a great company with the money that you deserve. And I track and measure that, and I have delivered on that. I'm also mission-driven. I have a mission to accelerate 1 million careers by 2040. 2040 will give me enough I kind of picked that number almost arbitrarily, but I want a time to be time bound on there. And I have about 999,975 more careers to go since I started Kadima. But the rate is picking up. I'm looking to scale this. I'm looking to impact as many careers in a positive way as possible. So when we hold ourselves accountable here. So some of the concerns I had in working for some of these big tech companies, they would talk a big game, but they wouldn't necessarily deliver on it. I am a firm believer in accountability. People that know me understand that quite well. We delight our customer with our 30-day question ask money back guarantee. I say question ask because I will give you your money back, but I ask two questions. Why do you want your money back and what can we do better? But if you give me those answers, I will unhappily give you your money back. I'll be unhappy because I did not delight you. We are committed to leveling the playing field with our 15, 20, 55 commitment. So as I grow and develop this program, I am committed to have 15% of my customer base as a minimum, Black individuals, 20% Latinx, 55% women. And those numbers were not arbitrary. I looked at the mix of the population and I rounded them all up. We will be committed to help underrepresented individuals to exceed and excel in the tech space. So enough about me. What about you and your job search? So here's a little bit about the job search. Maybe some of you know this, some of you may not. But once a job posting is submitted, especially at like a attractive organization like a Salesforce, Facebook, Amazon, Google, when I would put one of those jobs out there, when I would hire for a job, I would get between 100 and 300 resumes after 1 week that were submitted to me. And within 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, we had north of 1,000 applicants going for that one job that I, as a hiring manager, was hiring for. So that's where the funnel starts. You are competing with up to 1,000 people when you submit your resume, the normal way. Then what comes next is an application tracking software known in the industry as ATS, or recruiters manually review those resumes and they cull those down to like the hundreds, if not 50s. Next, they will submit those. The recruiter will submit those to the hiring manager. And I was always a hiring manager. And they would give me a handful of 10 or 20 resumes or so, and say, look at these and which ones are worthy of me doing a recruiter screen with, or like the recruiter would ask me that. Then the recruiter would reach out to them, about 10 people. And of those 10 people that they select, they would then send to me as a hiring manager about 5 to 7 to interview. And after those 5 to 7, we would pick a list of 3 to 5 that make it to the interview loops. And you have to be diligent and have a filter for those 3 to 5 because you are spending a lot of time and resources of the interview panel. There's usually 4 people on the interview panel interviewing for 30 to 45 minutes. I, as a hiring manager, would have to recruit either people on my team, colleagues, cross-functional partners to interview. So you don't want to waste a lot of people's internal time, not to think about the candidate's time, but you're interviewing about 3 to 5 people. So once you get to those interview loops where you have 3 to 5 interviews scheduled, you are still competing with 3 to 4 other people. And then if you're lucky, you're fortunate, and you kick ass in the interview, or you're the best of the bunch, you will get an offer. So that's what it works out as. So it depends on what stage you get in there. You may have a 1 out of 1,000 shot of getting that job. And there's definitely ways that you can influence that, and we'll talk about that shortly. So all that information shows that the playing field is not level. The companies have the power here. They open up a job, they get all these resumes in, they can look at people from Harvard and Princeton and Yale and referrals and things of that nature. But the company has the power. They know how much the budget is for that role. They know who else is competing with you for that role. What I'm trying to do with Kadima is level the playing field. So how do we do it? So here's a quick musical interlude if this works. This is how we do it. So little Montel Jordan to get your day started. So here is the Kadima method that I have worked a little bit myself and have honed over the last 1.5 years. So stage one, and you'll see some books here. A lot of the books have informed these processes. And if you don't want to work with Kadima, pick up these 10 books that I show here, and you can probably hack into the Kadima method. First off is self-assessment and goal setting. So you need to work on creating your target list of companies. I generally recommend to people 40 to 60 target companies for you to focus on. And it sounds like a lot, but the way we go through it, it's not that hard to get that list of 40 to 60. And then you also have to do your self-assessment of what you're strong at. If you want to transfer from a program manager to sales, Google is not going to hire you as a salesperson. They're going to hire you as a program manager. And then once you get into Google, you figure out how to get to the sales organization. But you need to really assess what you're good at, because that's what the company is paying you good money for. Next up, you need to network. And some people think networking is a dirty word. You can consider it relationship building. Relationship building is a huge investment in time, but it pays off in spades. If I can figure out the poll, looking at the poll, my hunch is most people have gotten their job through their network. My 29 jobs I've had, 25 of them have come through network or nepotism. So it's important to do that. That gives you more information about the company. And frankly, you can give and take information. So it's not all about you taking. Interviewing. So you get past the recruit, you get noticed by the recruiter. Then you have these series of interviews, first with the recruiter, then with the hiring manager, then the interview loops. Sometimes you have a panel presentation. Any of those 4 stages, if you get voted off the island, you're done. So it's important to interview effectively and to be prepared for that. And you will not get feedback often from interviews that you do poorly. So it's a really hard skill to hone. We help you hone that. We leverage some best practices in these books, but we also use a lot of great insight of what I've gone through and what others have gone through the interview process. Next up, offer negotiation. So if you are that one that gets the offer, you all of a sudden have leverage. Once they make that offer to you, that company is telling you that they want you, you should not take that offer right away. There are ways that you can negotiate more money from that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that is a critical aspect, and the offer negotiation is a key factor that keeps women getting paid less than men, because a lot of data is out there that men are more apt to negotiate, and also keeps underrepresented populations paid less than overrepresented or more represented populations, because they don't know what amount to ask for, because they don't have that network there. And there's lots of reasons going behind it, but the offer negotiation can get you between $10,000 and $109,000 more dollars, just through simple and some more advanced negotiation techniques. Your first 90 days. So once you get that job, awesome. Congratulations, go out and celebrate. But then your first 90 days on that job are critical. You need to get strong relationship with your manager, with your stakeholders, with your teammates. If you're a manager, you need to build a strong relationship with your team as well. And then stage 6 is what I call up, over, or out. Within 2 years in your job, if you are not getting promoted by going up, you should be thinking about going over to a different functional team or a different team entirely, or go out. And 2 years is not a hard, fast rule. It's just a general rule of thumb. And sometimes people have different priorities. So if you have a newborn, or you're taking care of an older parent, or you don't want to really bust your hump too much, maybe you want to stay in a role a little bit longer. But realize after about 2 years of time in a role, that company is getting so much more value out of you than you are out of them. And I saw data there when I was at American Express. They showed a graph. The first 6 months, the company loses money on you. The next 6 months, the company starts to make that back. And then the next year is where the company really gets tons of value out of you. And if they're getting tons of value out of you, if you're not getting tons of value out of them, that's not a fair equation. And I advise people to move over or out. So I put all that together with it and have developed the Kadima Career Accelerator Bootcamp. So what we offer is we offer you the confidence, the support, the insight, and expertise that you can navigate the challenge of the job acquisition process effectively. I deliver that with personalized coaching and a proven system for your career journey. So what that includes in terms of more detail, one, it's a 13-week course of unwavering support. You have access to me around the clock. There's weekly group career sessions with flexible times. So I started with one-on-one coaching. I've realized that it's more effective to do group coaching classes where we have 30 people in a room where we talk about similar sort of issues, help each other out, build networks, build confidence, and help support one another. There's monthly one-on-one coaching with me. I'm the only coach here. You come to me, you work with me. We make sure that you have a plan. We evaluate where your challenges are, whether it's getting awareness, whether it's informational interviewing, whether it's getting from the recruiter to the hiring manager. We dig deep into that. You get unlimited 17/7 email support. I say 17/7 because I'm sleeping about 7 hours a night. So I will not respond to your email while I'm sleeping, but I will get back to you when I wake up in the morning. Next up, unlimited turbo boost sessions. So these are 15-minute sessions you can schedule at any time with me. If you have a writing sample due for a Stripe, if you're trying to figure out how to ace the 14 different values at Amazon, if you're trying to figure out how to get past a GCA, the general cognitive ability at Google, if you're negotiating an offer with Dropbox, you set up time, I meet with you, we talk through those high inflection point situations. There will be, at these group sessions, there will be guest speakers, including senior leaders, hiring managers, recruiters from the top tech companies. And then 7, you will increase your global network of advocates at all the top tech companies. So I will give you ability to reach out to my network, not unfettered access to them. It will be measured. It has to make sense for why you're reaching out to them. But more importantly, I will teach you how to fish, how to build your network, how to grow your network, how to invest in your network, and how to leverage that network for your success, and also help them along the way as well. So this is a quote that a former employee of mine shared with me from Anthony Bourdain, that there are 2 different types of people in the world, but they're the type of people that live up to what they say they were going to do yesterday, so actually walk the walk, and then there are people that are full of shit. I am not one of those people that are full of shit. I created this because I walk the talk. I get people results. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it and because I'm a results-focused individual, and I will deliver these results. I have delivered these results, and I'll share with you some information about that. So here's some testimonials, and Wesley, I see you there. So Wesley's on the screen here. He recorded a testimonial for me, but you can, there's a link here. You can check out my LinkedIn page where you will see 29 different recommendations that I've received. There are a couple of clips on here as well as I send it out, but qualitatively, gotten lots of good feedback on the Kadima program and my ability to help people accelerate their careers.
Working with
Sorry,
Alan is
sorry,
definitely
that always goes off. Sorry, you can watch that at your own time. Here are some quantitative results. So qualitative feedback is nice. Here are some quantitative results. Here are 7 recent situations where I helped a woman at Dropbox negotiate $18,000 more to become a content strategist there. PayPal, $55,000 more. Facebook helped someone get $78,000 more in a role there. Amazon, $93,000 more. Microsoft, $125,000 more. So I have helped empower these individuals. And that column in yellow is incremental comp. And don't get me wrong here. Life is not all about compensation. There's other things about the job success and fulfillment and so forth. But compensation is a good proxy of what that company, how that company values you. And would you rather have Google have more money or you have more money in your pocket to pay for your vacations, your kids' education, build up generational wealth? So here are real results, real time frames, and real impact. Oh, and looking at the math, if you look at what people have invested in the program versus what they're getting, on average, I'm getting people a 17.8 times return on their investment. So in summary, the job market is challenging. You probably wouldn't be here if it was easy. There are lots of jobs available. So I actually track a lot of companies that I work with closely. There's a link to the companies that we track with 102,000 jobs available right now at high paying companies that are rated well on Glassdoor. You can make significantly more money. There was just a article that came out today that people that switch jobs wind up making a lot more money than people that stay in the same job for 10, 12 years. There's reasons to stay in the same job but if you're trying to accelerate your career, you're trying to get paid what you're worth, there's a lot of opportunity to at least see what you're paid outside. You can always stay where you're at, but get that information. Then Kadima is proven to work. So why should you start Kadima now? Here's real data from me. So and I've also aligned this with some of the results from Kadima to date. Essentially, every month that you wait on your job search, you are leaving about $5,000 per month on the table. So here's an example of me. That's me on the left. So this slide, like your results may vary, but here's my income that I made when I was at American Express in 2011. There's what it was when I went to Google. So moving from Amex to Google, I went up by $62,000. But more importantly than that, over the last decade, since transitioning into tech and being more proactive with my career, I have increased my compensation 3.3 times. And what that essentially calculates into is if I had stayed at American Express over the course of that time versus moving into tech, I'm getting essentially $157,000 more per year because I made that move. So it's your choice. You guys can continue to be in an office space and submit your TPS results to Bill Lumberg and upload your resume and get ghosted and not get traction. Or you can live in the Google pit, the ball pit, which actually is not all that's cracked out to be. There's some funky stuff in the bottom of those ball pits, as there is in Google or in your career in tech, but it's a lot more fun playing in a ball pit than submitting your TPS report to Bill Lumberg. So people ask, what is the investment? So there is an investment in time and money for you to achieve these goals. So we are aiming for you to achieve at least a 10 times ROI. So I showed you my historical numbers. We're setting the bottom bar at 10 times. That's what we're aiming for. We think we can do more, but I don't want to oversell. The time commitment is typically 5 to 10 hours per week. A lot of that is through informational interviews, follow-ups, being proactive with your job search. The more time you put into it, usually the better results you get. 5 to 10 hours are also the amount of interviews that you're doing, real interviews, prepping for those interviews, informational interviews, mock interviews, so on and so forth. We have never turned a client away. So there is a financial commitment, and I'll talk a little bit about that shortly, but we've never turned any client away due to financial constraint. That's not my intent of building Kadima. We're looking to accelerate 1 million careers. I'm not looking for any profit goals. And we offer a questions asked 30-day money back guarantee. So we're trying to mitigate some of the friction for you to make this investment in your future. So call to action. Oh, actually, let me go back to here. So the cost of the program is $5,000 for the 13-week program. Again, I do not want the cost to be a factor for you not taking this. So if you are interested, and we'll talk a little bit about what to do if you're interested, do set up time with me. We will discuss it. Again, I have never turned anyone away because of the cost. I've turned people away because I couldn't help them, or because they didn't have the right skill set or the right competencies that needed to succeed, but never because of the money. So call to action. So I will send this presentation out as well, but you can jot down this really unwieldy URL, which I'm working with my marketing team on, but for now I have this. And thank you, Alyssa, for putting that in the chat. But you can click on there to apply there to reserve your spot in the fall boot camp. We're only taking 30 people in the boot camp. We already have several people signed up. So we have a small number of spots left, but we do have spots left. Kadima, so it is an application process. I don't take everybody into the program, but I will respond to everybody. I will support everybody. But I have found over the last year plus that Kadima is most effective with certain clients. One, mid to senior level professionals, whether you're in tech or looking to get into tech. So when I say mid to senior level, usually 5 to 30 years, It's a huge window of time, but that's where I find to be most effective. And then individuals that have grit. So Angela Duckworth summarizes this as people that have passion and perseverance. Next, hustle. You are going to be competing with lots of people for jobs. There's a lot of jobs out there, but for you to get the job that you're applying for, you need to hustle. You need to bust your hump. You need a growth mindset. So I will be offering you advice, feedback, suggestions. We will break down mock interviews. We will break down real interviews, but you need to have that growth mindset of always wanting to improve. You need to be accountable. I will hold you accountable, but no one will hold you as accountable as yourself. So if you say that you are going to make 20 email outreaches that week, I will ask you the next week if you made those 20, but it's ultimately on you to follow up and hold yourself accountable to that. And then finally, ready to accelerate. For people that are thinking about it, like my job's okay, I might get promoted in a quarter from now, blah, blah, blah. It's not the right time. But if you are ready to accelerate, if you're ready to make $5,000 more per month, if you're ready to improve your network, if you're ready to build the confidence, skills, and insights to excel, now might be a great time for you to join. So I told people with this webinar, I incented them to come in. I'm going to give you real tips. Here are 3 real tips, whether you work with Kadima or not. The first tip was pick up those books that I shared earlier. But here are 3 tips plus 1 super secret tip that I won't put on the slide. First tip, the first offer you receive will not be your last offer. Only in very select cases, maybe coming out of like a batch hiring event or maybe coming out of an MBA program, getting slotted into a role, you will have a set compensation. Outside of that, almost everything is negotiable. Not everything. Lots of things are negotiable. Sign-on bonus is negotiable. Equity is negotiable. Title is sometimes negotiable depending on the company. Level is sometimes negotiable depending on the company. So the first offer you get is not your last offer. At the very least, if you decide not to work with Kadima and you have an offer, come reach out to me. I'll give you a couple of tips and I'll help you get some easy money. Secondly, your next job is not your last job. So whatever job you're in now, my hunch is you are not retiring there. The next job you get, my hunch is you're not retiring there. So look at that next job as a stepping stone to your goal. If you have goals of retirement at a certain age, if you have goals of being independently wealthy, if you have goals of sending your kids to college without debt, your next job will not necessarily get you there. It will get you on the path to there. So it's like a stepping stone. The third tip, always be looking. I've spoken, like I just helped someone get a job at Microsoft. A month later, after he updated his LinkedIn profile that he's at Microsoft, Google came calling. He asked me, should I take this interview from Google? I responded, why the hell not? He took the call from Google. It didn't wind up panning out, but always be looking. When you take a new job, look at that job description that you just got hired for. They essentially wrote your next section of your resume. They said you're managing enterprise level customers, Fortune 500 customers. That is one bullet in your next section. Keep your resume fresh. Keep your preferences on LinkedIn open to opportunities. Always be talking, always be looking. Take interviews also, even if you don't care about that, do it for practice. It helps you so that when you have that interview at Google or you have that interview at Stripe, you will have enough practice and you'll feel confident. And then the fourth tip, which is not on this slide, and what I tell my clients to do, and they do, and it's helpful, record your interviews. So right now, I could be recording this call right now on my phone, right next to me. No one would know. I record all my interviews that I take applying for a job. I listen to them afterwards. It helps me to understand what's working, what's not. If I answer the question succinctly, if I'm using too many ums and ahs, if I'm not being direct with my responses, my clients do that as well. They play it back to themselves and they take that information and they play it to me as well. And we break that down and figure out where those gaps are and where they can improve. So record your interviews and learn from those. So next up, again, apply now to get your spot in our bootcamp. There's the link again. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, ideas, I am looking, like we said at Google, launch and iterate. This is not perfect. I have a growth mindset as well. If something here did not resonate with you, if I could have been more clear, if you have questions, please send me that at alan@kadimcareers.com. And then finally, last slide, like the great Ron Popeil, you get more than what I just told you here at a cheaper price. So Kadima is only going to succeed because of the results that we're delivering and your support. And as a thank you for anyone that signs up through this webinar and happens to wish me a happy birthday. Tomorrow I'm turning 48 years old. I'm not. If you wish me a happy birthday in this form and you get accepted into the Kadima program, you will get $500 off the price just for being nice and wishing me a happy 48. So that's all I got. These all slides are in the graveyard. But with that, I will stop sharing my screen and open this up to, we have 15 more minutes. I can open this up to questions and answers. I think that, let's see, Alyssa, if you can, there is a Q&A here that I don't think anyone actually, let's see. Oh, a question from Scott, from my buddy from Google. Can you still negotiate on an offer for an internal transfer? What's the risk that they say buy and move to the next person? So negotiating for internal offers is a little bit more tricky. It's rare that you can, but there are ways that you can, and there are ways that you can. The better thing to negotiate for internal is a faster path to promotion. So depending on your particular situation, sometimes when you move internally, it sets the clock back for the promotion cycle. But if you were on a good promotion trajectory before you're transferred, you can often negotiate that out with your new hiring team. However, get that shit in writing, because if your manager that you go over to that promised that verbally does not, is no longer there, it's going to be harder to hold that up. And promotions are not guaranteed also because of lots of calibration and politics and bullshit that go on. But internal negotiation is a lot harder often than coming from an external place. I see a lot of happy birthday wishes. Thank you for those happy birthday wishes. Are there other questions that people have about how to accelerate your career, how to get into some of the best tech companies in the world? I'm looking at the poll. Looks like 43 people answered. And how do you get your last job? 23% said a recruiter reached out to me. So the story I like to say is, I don't know, like I'm no longer single or looking for a partner, but when I used to hit on people at bars when I was drunk and young and stupid, most women would turn me down because I reached out to them at the bar. You're a lot better if you're reaching out to the person than letting them reach out to you. So I'm telling that story a little bit badly. But if someone reaches out to you, it could be okay. But again, you're not being proactive with that process. You are being reactive. So a better approach is to be proactive. The second highest thing is through network connections, and that's what we talked about here, the power of the network. And then some people got referrals. Yes, referrals work tremendously. And then about 18% of people coldly submitted their resume to get their job. So 1 out of 5 chance of getting their job through the resume. There are other tactics to take to improve your chances. Maya has a question here. What's the longest appropriate time to wait to accept an offer? So as long as you need, to the extent that the company will allow that. So there's not, I can't tell you it's 48 hours or a week. You work with a company, you need to understand your power and leverage. You need to understand, do they have another candidate in mind? Will they retract this offer if I show that I have cold feet? So it's a more nuanced answer. I can't give you a specific answer for that, but there are ways to push it off. There are some excuses that you can use to push that off. And if you're balanced, if you're thinking about, and it also depends why you're waiting to accept that offer. So there are ways that you can do delay tactic that, hey, I want to speak to the hiring manager again, or I want to speak to some people on that team, or I need to speak it over with my spouse, or whatever. There are delay tactics, but at some point, you may burn bridges, so you need to be careful there. So it's a more nuanced answer than I can answer right there with Maya's question. But Maya, if you have questions about something specific going on in your world, you want to set up time with me, happy to chat through your specific situation. And I don't think we have opportunity for people to talk here on the webinar. So if you want to put it in chat, you can. Otherwise, happy to chat with you some other time. Hey, Antonio, good to see you. Any tips on how to make yourself more attractive to FAANG companies on LinkedIn? And I think you're missing an A because it's still Apple and Amazon, last I heard. Those companies are often not going to be looking for you on LinkedIn because those companies, FAANG, which you're talking about, Meta or Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, they do not need to look for talent. They open up roles and the resumes come in and the referrals come in. So they may look for you, but the odds are they don't. Very few recruiters that I worked with at Google, at Salesforce, at Facebook, proactively source my candidates. Mostly what they did is they put the job description out there.
First, you'll have to unlock your device.
I submitted it on my network, and some of the best recruiters I had at Google when I was looking to hire those 40 people in a year, they did some proactive outreach. But outside of very senior level positions, often they wait for the applicants to come to them. So you need to be more proactive if you want to get into one of the FAANGs or FAANGs. Brandon's asking a question. Having been laid off since the start of the pandemic, I've applied for more than 60 roles in the past 2 months. Is a gap in employment presenting a significant barrier? No. There may be a gap in how you're communicating that. There are tons of ways to communicate that away. And don't worry about that. You can say, like, I don't know what your exact situation is. You could do some consulting work. You could say you were taking care of a sick family, focused on COVID, whatever. They do not pressure test that. You don't want to say anything that's an outright lie that they can figure out. But being out for that long, you say you're dealing with family issues, it's usually very, very acceptable. It will reduce your power to negotiate because you don't currently have a job. And you can't say that I'm making $225,000 unless you pay me more than that, I'm coming over there. So it might make it harder for the negotiation, and it will mean that you need to take a more proactive approach, because sometimes on these companies with their Boolean searches, when they do look for candidates, they do look for people that are currently employed. So you will have to be more proactive, but it will not create a significant barrier. It will create a little bit of a bump along the way. And my buddy Josh, if you and the team were given unlimited resources to scale, what would Kadima look like 5 years from now? So that's a great question. So I'm thinking like 5 weeks from now, not 5 years from now. But what it will look like is there will be a software aspect, because a lot of the support that I do with people can be automated. Right now, I'm having people work through spreadsheets and docs and things of that nature. And I'm working on enhancing that. So I want to make it easier and easier for my clients to do things in a repeated manner and not to wonder when they need to reach out to Josh at Google, because he was supposed to respond to him on Monday, but an automatic update comes there. So automation, support, I will be supporting more people, so it will not always be me talking to people 5 years from now, likely, but I want to make sure that the experience is as good and the results are as good in terms of that 18 times ROI, getting people great jobs at the world's best companies efficiently and confidently. And Josh, I can tell from Josh is a Googler, so he thinks about scale, as do I. So thanks for that question, Josh. There are no more open questions here. Any last questions? Let's see. Snow's asking a question. What challenges have I seen for candidates who transition from small businesses to large tech firms? So one, culture. You become a smaller fish in a bigger sea. So there's more outward networking you need to do. All of a sudden you will be involved in calibration. If people have not heard the term calibration, it means they're not a people manager at a large tech organization. But what calibration essentially is every 6 to 12 months, your manager gets in a room with other managers and they evaluate how good you are. And it's usually on a 5-point scale of needs improvement, meets expectation, exceeds expectation, greatly exceeds expectation, walks on water, or whatever the euphemisms are. But you will need to play that game. It's kind of bullshit, but there are ways that you can improve it. There's ways that you can control that conversation when you're not in the room. We help you navigate that through Kadima as well. But you need to worry about those cross-functional relationships, other people influencing your decisions. And also, there will probably be more people either consulted on the decision or influencing the decision. So you need to pick up your internal networking skills. Vin asks a question. Would I recommend upgrading to LinkedIn Premium to do the networking aspect on the methodology? Great presentation, thanks. So Vin, thanks for the props. In terms of LinkedIn Premium, I find tremendous value from LinkedIn Premium. You can, like, I forget all the differences there, but I know you can see everybody who's seen your profile, not just like the last 5. You can reach out to more people. I believe you can either sign up for a year, which is like $250, or monthly, which is like $30. I would sign up for a month and see if it's worth your while. If you are in the midst of a job search and you're serious about it and you're working with Kadima, I would highly recommend signing up for the premium version. The value is definitely there in the premium version. But if you're not sure, sign up for a month, see if it's worth the $30. And then you can, after the month, you can decide to take it for the full year. Even though, like, for the last 5 years of my career, even when I was not actively looking for jobs, I have been a premium member. I'm not a LinkedIn, well, I'm not a Microsoft investor who owns LinkedIn, but it has been a good return on my investment, that $30 per month or $250 per year. Jordan is asking what items, details, and also another former, or I think current Googler, what item details would you like from us to prepare in order to determine which of us would be best fit into your next boot camp? So if you've nothing much, honestly, like the webinar form that you need to fill out is pretty open-ended. The couple things I look at, honestly, is your LinkedIn, your resume, and how you respond to the questions. And I will not be looking at your resume, like, and your resume I think is optional, but I will be looking at your LinkedIn to see if you're like 5 to 30 years of experience, have some core competencies. And if I do not accept you into the program, I will tell you why. It's not like an interview where you're just going to get rejected or ghosted. I promise you, I will follow up with each and every person that fills in the form. So Jordan, I will let you know. But essentially, if you have grit, hustle, perseverance, growth mindset, and you're eager to make a change, I can help you. There's a question here off topic. Oh, so someone's having trouble uploading their resume onto the application page. So Alyssa, if you can check that out, since I think you were working on my Squarespace page and checking out what that is. But Brooks, if you're having trouble with that, don't worry. Just submit your LinkedIn profile. And I know you're from PSP as well, so I can connect with you. But the resume is just, if people have it, like, I find people actually like to share their resume with me more than I ask for it. I don't really need your resume. The LinkedIn is actually more effective. And Alyssa is looking into it now, and I'm sure she will have this resolved lickety split. Hamanthi, how are you? Awesome to see you, although I don't see you, but awesome to see the comment here. Thank you for that. Birthday wishes. How frequently do I plan to have such boot camps, and how do we stay up to date with the latest programs at Kadima? So we are going to have these boot camps starting quarterly going forward. At this point, I just left Salesforce on September 22nd. So it's kind of, we're going to start this one when we get the 30 people signed up. Until then, people are going to have one-on-one weekly coaching with me. So they're actually going to get more added value before we start the first boot camp. Going forward, the boot camps will start on the first of the quarter. The reason why they're 13 weeks is that is how the big tech companies work. They work in quarters. A quarter is 13 weeks. We will start the boot camps on January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st going forward. This particular boot camp is starting when we get 30 people signed up. We have a bunch already, but we're not at the 30 mark yet. Until then, people get one-on-one coaching with me, extra value, and then we will tag on those 13 weeks to whenever we get those 30 people signed up. So hopefully that answers your question, Hemanthi, and thank you for the birthday wishes. Cool. We have 2 minutes left. And thank you for once again for everybody joining here. And whether you fill out the application or not, I would love your feedback on this webinar, what I can do better, what resonated, what was boring, what can be improved. Cool. And then how you'll find out about future things. I'm working to develop better marketing. If anyone knows a good marketing contractor that wants to help me make sure that I'm getting the word out effectively through email communication, through some other means, please send them my way. And Anu, I see that. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing your application here. And we are almost at time. So we have 1 minute left. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This is my first webinar. Hopefully I didn't screw it up too badly. If I did, give me feedback. Thanks for the friends, family, and others that are showing here. Thanks for the birthday wishes. And don't forget, you own your career. So whether you choose to have Kadima accelerated or not, I was just speaking to a former director at Google. These companies do a very poor job at developing your career. You have to take ownership of your career. No one else will give a shit about your career more than you will. So whether you work with me, realize that the company is not there to develop your career. You should focus on developing your career. And DJ, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. Cool. And Chuck, thank you. Thanks everybody for the kind comments. Have a great Monday. Hope your Halloween was great. And for folks that have to vote tomorrow or are voting tomorrow and something, go vote. Bye-bye.